IQAC has to take care of 6 campuses. Almost we have 15, no, not 15, now it is 16 colleges. Last year we started a new agricultural college also in Coimbatore. So there are close to 16 colleges, units, or 16 colleges are there. We call them schools in our university system. We call them schools: School of Engineering, School of Medicine, School of Pharmacy, School of Ayurveda, like that. And we have close to 21,000 students now, and perhaps we have 1,600 to 1,700 faculty, and around 150 to 160 departments are there, different departments. So one department may be an anatomy department in a medical college, another may be a computer science department in this campus. It's an engineering college, which I also used to head. I actually used to be the vice chair of the computer science also for almost 12 years. I was doing that dual role actually. And then there could be a pharmaceutical chemistry department in the pharmacy college. So the kind of departments were as diverse as chalk and cheese. So it's totally diverse and totally different. And the IQAC has to be a body that is very inclusive, in the sense that IQAC has to consider all kinds of institutions, all kind of department, understand their sensitivities, and their systems and processes. It's very different. I can experience has really made us be very inclusive, because sometimes we joke. Many of us are from engineering or MBA colleges. Most of us are from engineering, MBA, MCA colleges. We can talk about, say, in a week, each of us say, how much is your workload? It may be varying from, say, 12 hours or 10 hours or 6 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours. I don't think anybody in an engineering college or an arts and science college may have more than 20 to 24 hours of instruction. But very interestingly, when we were working with the medical folks, many of them told, some days they have workload of 18 hours per day, not 1 week, because they have to see patients, they have to conduct operations. So they have patients coming, they have consulting. That is, people who are coming as outpatients, they just come, do a consultation, they go out. There are some patients who get admitted, they are inpatients. Then they have operation also planned. There are some days they have 16 hours of workload in a single day. So sometimes it's very different. It's a totally different ball game being in a medical institution. And we have to understand the sensitivity of that issue, the kind of work they do. Probably they are a little better paid than their counterparts in engineering, but still we have to understand their system, understand their processes, understand their milieu, understand, align ourselves so that they also get on board. And that's the essence of an IQAC. See, IQAC has to be very inclusive, involving everybody. IQAC has to inclusive in the sense that all kind of people, all kind of departments, all kind of disciplines, everybody should be taken along, and everybody should be, very importantly stressed upon the importance of documentation. The same thing, I have already told you this a couple of in the first presentation, that documentation continues to be the most important, the very, very important aspect of any institution, especially the IQAC. Not only outcome based education, IQAC also, the bedrock, the foundation lies in documentation. And that documentation, in the sense, it's not only the data that you have, it's also the evidence supporting the data that is there. So whatever be the thing, whether it is academic, whether it is administrative processes, academic processes, financial processes, extension activities, outreach activities, um, uh, what is that, innovation activities, student activities, clubs of the students, co-curricular activities, extracurricular activities, cultural activities, sports, everything and anything has to be covered in the documentation. So outcome based education, the documentation was generally focused on your course material, the course plan, the lesson plan, the syllabus, the course material, the examination, the evaluation, the answer scripts, the question papers, the mapping, and so on. Here we are looking at not only the academic aspects, the documentation with respect to a course, the course outcomes and all, but also the other, all the other kind of aspects of the institution in addition to academics. So it would involve institutions, financial documents, institution land documents, building plans, all that kind of documents, including student activities, clubs, achievements, innovations, research documentation, the papers, the patents, the projects, everything and anything has to be very clearly documented. And the IQAC plays a very important role in being the custodian of all these evidences and documents. So again, I want to stress, or rather I want to re-stress on the importance of documentation, especially in the context of an IQAC. OBE, we focused on academics and exams and all. This is focused on all aspects of the institution. Now, here I want to take some time out to give you a realistic picture of what the IQAC can do. A very realistic opinion about what the IQAC can do. Now, if you read many of you may have come from NAC accredited colleges. You may already have a functional IQAC. You may have an IQAC which you may be focusing on other activities, whether it is NBA or AASCB accreditation, international accreditation, whatnot. Some of you may be going for ISO also, and that is probably an IQAC is only taking care of the ISO and all these things. But what I want to very much stress in the context of an IQAC is that if you see this diagram, please note that this IQAC is only having a support role. This IQAC is having a support role to the college management. The college management is on top, and the IQAC is having a very important support role. But the reality is that if you read the NAC manual, it looks as if the roles of the IQAC are ulta. It's something like this. If you read the NAC manual, it is something like this. IQAC is, it appears, I mean, I am just, this is my personal opinion. I'm not giving my institutional opinion. It's my personal opinion based on my experience in the last 10 years of working on this. The NAC manual, sometimes I think whether there is a tinge of reality in that document. Because if you read that document, it says that the IQAC is running everything. The IQAC is running academic audit. The IQAC is doing administrative audit. The IQAC is doing financial audit. The IQAC is evaluating the teachers, the confidential, the teacher feedback of the semester or the trimester. All that is done by the IQAC as per the norms or the guidelines that are given by the NAC body. And UGC also recommends about IQAC. UGC does not have any guidelines on an IQAC, but just says that you follow what NAC is telling. But UGC is also highly recommending that every institution goes for a IQAC, and you follow the norms that are specified by NAC for the IQAC. This is what UGC also says. Now, there is, as mentioned, there is definitely a kind of a gap between the reality and what is possible. Now, I am asking you, many of you are faculty from private management school, B schools or private engineering colleges. No management will allow any IQAC to do a financial audit. No man, including my own, no management will allow financial audit, administrative audit by an IQAC. I'm sure it's a trend everywhere. I have seen all the colleges and universities have consulted with. No IQAC will be permitted to go anywhere near the financial aspects or the financial management of an institution. It is impossible. Or else the IQAC should be run by a management, somebody from the management. But it doesn't happen that way. IQAC cannot do some of the things that are prescribed in the guideline. It may not be allowed to do a financial audit. For that matter, do you think an IQAC, which private management will share all these things with an IQAC? They will not. They will not share with the faculty. Perhaps they may share some data or some stuff with the principal, maybe principal or the vice chancellor. If it's a college, it's a principal. If the university, it's a vice chancellor. Some data will be shared, but otherwise they will not divulge their financial plan. They will not divulge their investment plan. All these things are never going to be shared with any IQAC. Likewise, administrative audit. A college wants to start a new department. Suggestions can come from the IQAC, but all those strategic plans of expansion and all, no IQAC will be probably giving any. IQAC may be giving some inputs, but all these may not be possible at an IQAC level. I'll give you another example. At the end of every semester or trimester, the students are giving feedback of the faculty. Their teaching learning process is being evaluated. The feedback from the students are taken, and then if necessary, some kind of corrective action may also be taken. But that process is a highly subtle and confidential process. Perhaps as an individual faculty, you are being appraised or you are being evaluated. Your HOD or chairperson, head of the department or the chairperson knows. Perhaps the principal or the head of the institution knows. Right? So it is a confidential process. Like if all these things about everybody's feedback is in the public domain, then the purpose itself is defeated. Maybe it may leak out and all. I know some faculty said, oh, he was called by the principal. Maybe his feedback was bad. It's a kind of a speculation. But then, generally speaking, this is a very confidential process. The feedback of a faculty by the students at the end of a trimester or the end of the semester, it's a very confidential process. You can know because you are being appraised. Your HOD, head of the department, will know because he or she has to subtly tell you this is your feedback, and so on and so forth. So these are the kind of things that IQAC cannot do, and IQAC will not be able to do. But having said that, an IQAC has a very important role to play in the future of any institution. IQAC has to play a very important role in doing so many activities. May not be that the IQAC may not be able to do financial audit or administrative audit or teacher audit, but there are a whole bunch of activities that an IQAC can proactively do and help the institution. That's what I want to try and impress upon you. The manual is a guideline. The manual talks of many things. Certain things, 70% of the things that are told in the manual, you can do. You can do very effectively and very proactively such that your plate is full. But 20 to 30% things mentioned in the manual may not be possible. May not be possible at all. Even now I remember, see, I told you I come from a university that is multi-campus, multidisciplinary, 5 campuses, 15 colleges, 150 departments. I was talking to the advisor of NAC. I should not use his name. He's pretty close to me. I mean, he's on my Facebook friend. We WhatsApp each other very regularly. But I asked him a question, sir. I'm just telling you, sir. I asked him very confidentially. See, you are asking of this many IQAC minutes. You tell me you have come to our campuses. You have come with us to all the campuses for the second cycle of NAC. This thing. I'm talking, this is for 5 years back. Okay, not now. I asked him, sir, how can we have maximum? We can have a university level IQAC meeting once in a quarter or maximum once in a 6 months. It is not possible because people have to come from 5 campuses and all. 5 years back, he said, no, that is not possible. I know your situation. Why don't you do a couple of online meetings? You show it, you get the minutes later. So what I'm saying is that, the guideline is one thing. There are certain things you have to, work around it. There are issues that you cannot resolve. You cannot have 4 meetings in a quarter. It is impossible. Getting 150 people from various campuses to come itself is a nightmare. Where do I get accommodation for a meeting? So 5 years back, he said, why don't you conduct a few Skype meetings and, you can make that as the minutes. Show at least 4 minutes in a year, even though you're not probably, maybe have 2 physical meetings and the other 2 you have online meetings. So he was telling me this 5 or 6 years back. So what I'm trying to say is that the reality and the what is in the guideline, there may be a gap. But having said that, 70% of what the guidelines about the IQAC are being told by NAC, you can very nicely and easily do it. It is quite possible to do that very nicely. 70% you can do. 20 to 30% is not possible. And even NAC is aware, the NAC inspectors who come, the NAC experts who come, even they are aware of this, that it is not possible, right? So that's what I wanted to impress. So the IQAC only can play a very support role. The IQAC can focus on many things. IQAC can give suggestions for improving the governance. IQAC can give suggestions for improving the academics, can conduct activities to improve the research, can improve other aspects of the institution, student activities. IQAC can focus on activities to percolate the vision and mission of the institution to all the stakeholders. All these things, IQAC can play a very, very, very proactive role, so as to speak. That's what I wanted to impress. So whatever is written in the manual, maybe 80% of the things can be done by the IQAC. 70 to 80% can be done. Now, the IQAC at a visionary level has to focus on 2 major trends, so as to speak. The 2 major philosophy, or I won't say trend, it is more of a, what should I say, 2 focus trust areas of an IQAC will be, one will be to sustain the quality or maintain the quality. Already you have reached some level. You might have got NAC accreditation. You might have got AACSB accreditation. You might have got this ranking. You might have got NBA accreditation. You might have got this many university ranks. You might have got some ranking within the university that you are affiliated in, right? But you have to maintain that position, right? So one thrust area will be to have systems and processes such that you maintain the level of quality that you are, you sustain the position that you are in. That is one. Second thrust area will be to enhance the the position that you are in. And obviously this comes with benchmarking. Okay, you have reached this level, this many courses are accredited, this many publications you have got, this many awards you have got, this many activities you have got, you have come in these many rankings. Now, what is your benchmark? First thing, you have to maintain that. You have to, you can't go down. You have to maintain where you stand, the position that you are. Second step, you have to enhance and improve to some other level where you want to be, that so as to speak, the enhancement of quality. So there are 2 thrust areas that an IQAC will need to focus activities on. One will be obviously to enhance the quality, improve the quality, and the second will be to maintain or sustain the quality. So whatever activity the IQAC does, they should fall in one of these thrust areas, either maintaining the quality or improving the quality. So this slide typically uh, gives a kind of a hierarchy of the IQAC. Now, if you are a college, if suppose you are a university, then there will be one more level higher. There will be a university level IQAC, there will be a college level IQAC, and there will be a department level IQAC. So it is a three tier structure. If you are a university, so suppose you are part of VIT or SRM university, then at the university level there is something. There is an SRM engineering college, there is an SRM medical college. The college will have an IQAC, and the departments within that college, it could be mechanical department or English department or physics department, they will also have a IQAC. So there is typically it is a three-tier structure, but since most of you are from colleges, it will be a two-tier structure, where at the higher level there is a college IQAC which has to be constituted as per the guidelines of NAC. NAC has given some clear guidelines on setting up a college level IQAC. Now, the guidelines include having the principal as the head of the IQAC, as the chair of the IQAC. It's in most places, it is the principal. If it is a university, generally speaking, it is a university vice chancellor. But in some special cases and all, there have been changes. Like in our university, strangely, the vice chancellor does not chair. Vice chancellor is involved in a whole lot of other activities. So a senior faculty is nominated as the chair. And like I mentioned, for a couple of years, I was chairing the university level IQAC. So normally the IQAC is chaired by the head of the institution. If it's a university vice chancellor, and college means college principal or director or dean, whatever, depending upon the title of the thing, will be chairing. It is one thing. Second thing, below the college IQAC, inside the college IQAC, the principal or the head of the college will chair. There should be a management representative. There should be a good mix of faculty from different this thing. Ideally, all the HODs are generally part of an IQAC so that things move on. From every department, a mix of young and old faculty is recommended. So it depends, if mostly the IQAC will have the HODs, but you can have one or two representatives of the faculty, a mix of young and old faculty, senior and middle level faculty, so that there is a composition. Plus there will be management representatives. There will be representative from the major non-academic departments like placement cell or administration office or library or sports and physical education. So it gives the IQAC an overall structure with all these things. Now NAC has also mandated that we should have some external members. So there is some guideline that you can have a few students who are probably maybe your student student council head or student council chairman or vice chairperson or secretary, a few student representatives, a few alumni representatives, some representatives from industry. You can have some people from the local community could be a well-wisher, somebody who's helping you. It could be a person who's running a company nearby, who would be probably helping you getting internships, who would be supporting various activities, sponsoring your activities, having collaboration with you, and so on. So you could have somebody from a local community, it could be an industry, and you could have a few experts from other institutions from whom you want to be like or to benchmark. So it gives a multi-dimensional perspective to the college level IQAC. So ideally, the college level IQAC, you can have it with all the guidelines of the NAC. Now, one thing I want to stress here in this about the importance of this this college level IQAC. Many colleges whom I've consulted, I am a member of probably 4 or 5, not 4 or 5, maybe 7 or 8 university IQACs as an external expert, including Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati, one university in Gujarat also. I'm an IQAC external member, and some colleges in Kerala and in Tamil Nadu, maybe one in Karnataka also, I think so. So 7 or 8 colleges and everything. And many a time as an external member, I'm able to give a lot of inputs to that college. it's not only my experience, but I'm able to give some proactive suggestions which really help them. And they are, see, some suggestions may, somebody is talking. Can you please mute everybody?
Yes, sir.
Organize.
Yes, sir. I'll do.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
done, sir.
So, yeah, thank you. So we are able to give a lot of proactive suggestions and all. Some may be done immediately, some may not be done immediately, but we are able to add a lot of value to many of these IQACs, especially when they are going for the next cycle of NAC, or they are going for outcome-based education, they are going for NBA accreditation, rankings and all. So all these things are really helpful when you have some outside thing. So it's better to have some external experts from some colleges who have been doing very well, who can give you some share good practices, best practices, some local community people, maybe an industrialist or a well-wisher who's already helping you, an alumni who can give you some proactive feedback. So it's better to do that. And you are able to really add a lot of value to this thing. But you have to be very careful in the selection. Like I mentioned, you have to be very, very careful in that selection, because IQAC is an important body, and you have to have, ideally you should have somebody who's amenable, to your suggestions, whom you understand, you gel with, because having somebody, shouldn't be a trouble for you, because ultimately these minutes are so important, and that person should be able to sign it and support you in that. So that you should be careful in that. But ideally, make an IQAC as per the guidelines that are given by NAC, where you have the principal as the the chair of the IQAC, have a management representative, have all heads of department, then one or two faculty per department, a mix of young and old faculty, senior and experienced, and somewhat not so experienced faculty. Add heads or members from the support departments, like the administration, library, placement cell, physical education, and make it a mix. Then add some external members, maybe your student council president, some alumni coordinator or alumni who are nearby, who can attend meetings, who are doing well nearby, some local community people, maybe from industry, and some one or two experts from some top institutions who can help you in your journey, who are generally amenable to you. That is very important, because as I mentioned, the minutes have to be signed. If you have a person who doesn't sign, it's a problem for you also. And here I want to stress that, see, I told you that the HODs are there and some departmental representatives are there. Many a time I have seen that this IQAC work is going on. You're trying to fix the documentation, collate and consolidate the documentation, consolidate the data, consolidate the evidence, and many department faculty don't get involved. That's a very sad thing. And they will say that, okay, one IQAC coordinator, it is his or her job. That person has to be running from pillar to post to get things done. But that is not at all the concept. The concept is that the departmental representatives in the college level IQAC are the coordinators of the department IQAC. In the department level also, you should have an IQAC. With a very good mix of faculty, you can divide, criteria wise or file wise, that it's up to you. But those coordinators of the department IQAC are the ones who represent the department in the college level. So the work is distributed across. Ideally, you should divide all the responsibilities. If you have a department of 15 or 20 people, everybody should be in charge of one activity, one file, because we want to have participative management, decentralization. These are all music to NAC. You need to have decentralization, you need to have participative management, you need to involve everybody. So have all the documentation split, responsibility split. You can have, if your department is 20 people, maybe you can have a department IQAC of 5 or 6 or 7 people. It doesn't hurt. Some people, all the people are there in the IQAC, but everybody should contribute to the process. And the department level coordinator, the department level representative in the college IQAC is only the coordinator of the department IQAC. So it is absolutely necessary that institutions have this 2-tier or 3-tier structure. When there is a university, it will be university level, college level, department level. So that hierarchy, that 3-tier structure or 2-tier structure is absolutely necessary. That is what I want to stress. IQAC encapsulates the concept of the what industry talks about, the quality circle. Many of you are from business schools. You know what a quality circle is. Everybody and anybody is focused on quality. Everybody and anybody is focused totally on maintaining quality, whether it is the CEO, the vice president, the manager, the shop floor supervisor, the welder, the sweeper. Everybody is focused on quality. And IQAC actually encapsulates that concept of the QC or the quality circle. So everybody is involved. Department level IQAC, all department faculty are involved. One or two of the coordinators will be representing the department in the college actually. So that should be the essence, the essence of the kind of the IQAC, the principle, and so on and so forth. Yeah, this is probably the important slide. As I mentioned earlier, yes, IQAC may not be able to do financial audit. IQAC may not be able to do administrative audit. IQAC may not be able to do teacher audit and so on. But the plate is actually full in terms of the wide variety of activities that an IQAC can do. The wide variety of activities that an IQAC can do. And I told you two thrust areas. One is maintaining the quality, keeping the level of the quality the same, sustaining the quality, maintaining the quality, and the second thrust area is benchmarking and improving or enhancing the quality. So these two things are the thrust areas. Now, what are the activities that an IQAC can do for both sustaining the quality and also enhancing the quality? As mentioned, there is a whole big bunch of activities that can be done. The first alludes to building a culture of quality. Now, this encompasses both the thrust areas. Building a quality culture not only improves in the thrusting or the thrust area of maintaining or sustaining the quality, but also enhancing or improving the quality. Both are covered in this imbibing, developing a quality culture. How do you do it? You have an IQAC at a department level. You have a college level IQAC. You have a healthy interaction and interplay of ideas, best practices, which you are able to standardize and use for all departments. Now, what do? You have a department level IQAC, you have a school, college level IQAC. You focus on a whole lot of activities. These activities, what is the objective? The objective is to improve the teaching, improve the research, improve the extension activities, improve the administrative processes, simplify the processes, and so on. So that is the thrust. How do you improve all these things? I will give you an example. Now, if you are a computer science department, running a Python workshop should not be the activity of a IQAC if you are a computer science department. If you are an MBA or a finance department, giving a seminar on GAAP financial practices may not be and should not be or is not recommended as an IQAC activity. But having a workshop to write how to map COPO properly, that is irrespective of discipline. Whatever be the discipline, it doesn't matter. Improving the quality of teaching, how to implement OBE, how to write proper COs, how to do a proper mapping of CO to PO, how to get a proper attainment, how to analyze the attainment, workshops, seminars, training programs, software tools that help you. These kind of trainings can definitely be part of an IQAC activity. Similarly, research. All top universities have to go up in research. But if you have workshops, I'm not saying have a research, having a research methodology workshop. That helps in anybody and everybody. How to write good papers. How to write papers that get published in top journals. How to use indexes like Scopus or Web of Science. How to publish in high impact journal. How to select a journal for your research. How to find out what are the metrics of the journal, which are the good journals, which are the poor journals. How to guide a PhD student. These are very necessary things. See, if many of us complain, oh, the student is not doing properly, I will never blame the student. If a PhD student is not doing his job, it is the problem of the guide, the thesis guide or the thesis advisor, and the doctoral committee have to blame, not the student. I would say never blame the student. Well, the student doesn't know anything. The student is either part-time, working in some college, struggling and taking classes, earning a living. At the same time, the student is taking a lot of initiative in doing research with whatever limited type, juggling the family, juggling the teaching ability, capable teaching work. It's a very difficult thing. And that is part-time. If it is a full-time also, the full-time means, you can imagine, without earning, maybe a small stipend or small subsistence allowance is given. It's a major compromise or a major sacrifice coming full-time. So you can never blame the student. It is the job of the guide, the thesis advisor, to ensure that the student is up to speed, whether it is part-time or full-time. How to properly guide, that's a very important thing. We should have more workshops on how to guide properly. That's also important. So in the interest of both improving the quality and maintaining the quality, the IQAC at both department or college level should organize even workshops, seminars, training programs, methodologies, so that we can improve the quality of teaching, improve the quality of research, improve the quality of extension activities. There are so many student activities, clubs that you may be doing, but you can improve that. Do you know that the government of India has such a massive clean Swachh Bharat campaign? AICTE has so many schemes for that. You just apply, you are likely to be recognized. That is the kind of things that people are not taking it. So if you get a training program, why don't we have a training program wherein you are able to take your extension activities, student clubs, NSS activities to the next level. These help the extension activity. So the IQAC can focus on a whole lot of activities, seminars, workshops, conferences, training programs, to improve the quality of education, quality of research, the quality of extension, the quality of administrative processes. Why can't you train all your non-teaching staff in using Tally? Tally is an accounting software. Many of your lab staff, you may have a lot of consumables. You teach the lab staff to make everything in Tally. Your finance department will thank you. Otherwise, they will be running around. They will be troubling you. They'll call you. So this bill is not okay. That bill is not okay. This consumables, where is the bill? Oh, that bill is not proper. This thing. You train that person, give him the software, give him the link to put all the, upload the bills and all. Finished. Your headache will be reduced. You know, many a time these things are there. I giving my own experience. When I was vice chair of computer science department, I had a problem with one of the guides, one of the faculty guides. Anybody who went to that faculty guide had a bad had a story, had a huge problem. 4 or 5 students joined and quit the PhD program because of that. Just give me a minute. Venkat, I'm available today. I'll be here. I'll be there. 2 o'clock join பண்றேன். Sir. Okay. No, I'm in a session now. Can I call you back? Okay. So sorry. So the thing is, somehow this faculty had a very high standard. Very high standard. None of these students were, able to match the requirements. But in the process, what was happening? So one student is joining, there is an issue, faculty is, there is a lot of friction. Who is suffering? The department is suffering, the faculty, the guide is suffering, the student is suffering, the HOD, the chairperson is suffering, the vice chairperson. I made a stop. I told, see, you don't take anybody. Because you take somebody to guide, that person is not able to go to your standard. You will have friction. They will write a letter, you will write a letter. This will go on like a circus for a thing. My time is wasted, chairperson's time is wasted, the dean's time is wasted, research coordinator's time. You take somebody only when you are convinced. So even PhD guides need some orientation. There's nothing wrong in giving an orientation. So these kind of activities, the IQAC can play a very important role and promote these kind of activities, wherein the quality of teaching, the quality of research, the quality of extension activities can be improved. Plus, there can be a sharing and dissemination of good practices. You have good practices. You can identify these good practices. You can highlight these practices. You can disseminate and share these good practices. So that way, the IQAC can play a very important role in imbibing a quality culture. The IQAC can also have its own feedback mechanism. I'm not telling teacher feedback of teachers after the semester or trimester. I am saying the IQAC can be a hostel. Get feedback from the students on the hostel, the mess, facilities in the hostel, facilities in the mess, facilities in the college buses, facilities in the canteen. These kind of other aspects of student life, the IQAC can definitely play a role. I don't think any management will say don't do this. They'll be more than happy that, okay, why can't you don't interfere in the trimester or the semester teaching and evaluation. But as an IQAC, the IQAC can take feedback from other sources, especially the student life, and give a good report to the management. I'm sure every management will be more than happy. They will also want to improve the mess facility, the hostel facility, the bus facility, the canteen facility. So these kind of things the IQAC can do. So imbibing a quality culture not only involves looking at the enhancement of the quality, but also the maintaining and the enhancement of quality. And the activities could be focusing on workshops, seminars, to improve the quality of teaching, improve the quality of research, to improve the quality of extension, improve the administrative process, so on and so forth. That is one aspect. The second aspect is the quality measurement and monitoring, the benchmarking. Ideally, the IQAC should be a one-stop in the sense that it should be a one-stop arrangement, in the sense that all the activities, all the documentation, the numbers, the statistics can be maintained at the IQAC level. So generally speaking, the IQAC can be the single point of contact for all these things. whether it is a UGC requirement, an AACT requirement, whether it is an NBA requirement, NAC requirement, NARF requirement, any other university affiliation requirement, any compliance requirement, the IQAC can be the single stop of contact. Thereby, the IQAC has got all the data. It is the custodian of the data, the custodian of all the evidences. And not only that, these data and evidences are being validated and there is a analytics happening. So IQAC can look into trends. You can look into trends and say, so you can report. Somebody is talking. Yeah, the IQAC can report. IQAC can be the single stop, the report, in the sense that the report can report all these things, can alert the college management that, you know, this is our trend in terms of publications. Look at the trend. How is it going up or how is it going down? If it is going down, why is it going down? You can point out, the IQAC can be able to point out major lacunae. See, for example, sports activity. Maybe 1 year back, you had a lot of sports activities and a lot of prizes were won. But when you are doing the analytics, you are finding out that this year there is a lot of gap in terms of sports activities, gap in terms of prizes. Only when you promote sports activity, prizes will come, right? So you are able to have analytics, you are able to have benchmarks, and you are able to, the IQAC plays a very important role in this measurement of the quality, the monitoring of the quality, the compliance of the thing. And ideally, it should be the one stop for all the aspects, whether it is NAC, NBA, NARF ranking, international ranking, DataQuest ranking, Business India ranking, whether it is affiliation to the university, other compliances, everything can be the responsibility of the IQAC. And the last aspect, the reporting. IQAC can be the body that does the reporting to all these agencies from the college point of view. Anyway, the IQAC is headed by the principal, so the principal is involved. Anyway, it has got all the HODs, so all the HODs are involved. So IQAC can be the point of contact for all these agencies, as also make all these reports, all the compliances, all the documentation, and deliver it to all the regulatory, statutory, and accreditation agencies. I told you in India we have statutory agency, separate regulatory agency, separate accreditation agency. But IQAC can be the point that takes care of all these agencies. That is one thing. Now, another activity that I will recommend that an IQAC can play a very proactive role is that IQAC can be the communicator to the stakeholders, because all the data you have, all the evidences you have everything. You have student activities, student achievements, faculty activities, faculty achievements, you have sports, you have research, everything is there. The data and the evidence is there in your custody. You are the custodian. Why can't you do the marketing of it? Employ a content writer, employ a designer. Maybe you already have in your college, you have a designer, a content writer and a designer. Make a nice newsletter so that, you know, the technical content, the management jargon and all, you make it in a crisp fashion that a common man can read it. Take some good pictures, make it very attractive, right? So make a nice newsletter. Ideally, the IQAC should be running a newsletter of a college, because all the data is there, all the evidence is there. The data and the evidence has been validated. You have checked it, you have double checked it, you have kept the proof. Why not you market it? Take the data, get all the reports. Maybe a little work is needed. You have to have a content writer, because somebody in your English department may be able to do a content writing, because the technical jargon has to be made into a crisp language, palatable to others. You may need to have a graphics and multimedia to take the pictures, and so on. You can publish a newsletter, have an e-newsletter, send it through all your contacts, through WhatsApp, social media. You can leverage the power of social media also for all these things. So that way, and also a very important thing, you can the IQAC can ensure the consistency of the website, because you have all the data, you have all the evidences, you have everything. You can ensure that the website, which is your window to the outside world, is always updated. And this thing, as I mentioned, you are having a student achievement. You investigate the student, get some pictures, give a content writer. The same thing which goes to the newsletter can also go to your brochure, can also go to your website, can also go to your social media page. So have a process in place for this, so that way what will happen is that all your achievements will be known to the outside world. And you never know how these things pan out, how these things will help you in the long run. Definitely they will help you in the long run, because these things will definitely promote all these activities, and your this windows to the outside world, all these outlets will your name, your reputation goes up. So it is very important, and the IQAC can take that responsibility of ensuring the consistency of the data in the website, in the social media channels, in the brochures, in the newsletter. And this newsletter can be sent to all your contacts, all your well-wishers, your parents, your stakeholders, your employers, and it actually adds value to your there may be some people who may delete, but there will be some people who will definitely read. You never know, and that may result in a new collaboration, in a new relationship. All these things really help, and it has been shown time and again. So as mentioned, what I've been trying to tell you, the IQAC is proactively involved in all the institutional functions. It can play an important role in suggesting UG programs, suggesting PG programs from the industry, get feedback, can ensure that all the class committee meetings, course committee, timetable things, everywhere the IQAC can play a role. So that's what I mentioned. The IQAC can be a very proactive body that is involved in all aspects of the institution. Academics, administration, research, extension, outreach, everything the IQAC can be involved. The plate is full. But as per the 70% of what is mentioned in the NAC guidelines, the IQAC can do. And the IQAC will have a lot of work to do. And obviously, my personal experiences, IQAC will not be able to do certain things that are mentioned in the manual, like administrative audit, financial audit. This nobody will allow. So definitely the IQAC can be made to you in a very proactive manner in all functions of the institution. I'm going to the last part of the presentation. It's almost an hour now. It's an hour has passed. So now I just want to kind of highlight a couple of good practices that we have done. This is my own experience, my own initiatives that have resulted in a lot of, in some good practices, in such a sharing of good practices. See, one is that, as I mentioned earlier, in many cases, the rankings and all are now very important. Now you see, you may love it or hate it, but you cannot ignore these things. You have to, if you want to be, it's a highly competitive market outside, and you have to attract the best students. You have to attract the good faculty, attract good collaborators, attract good placement, and so on. So it's a high competitive word. Now you may love it or hate it. You may agree with their methodology, you may not agree with their methodology. That is a different thing. But at the end of the day, you cannot ignore these things. Rankings are important because rankings help you to promote to the outside world. Now I can write a full long paper of 20, 30, 40 pages on what are the fallacies and what are the lacunae in these rankings. I can do that. It's not going to help me in any way because I am not a policy maker. Maybe I can write a letter to the member secretary of NBA and say that, sir, these are the problems in your ranking. He may read it, he may not read it. I don't know. But rather than wasting our time cribbing about these rankings, we can nicely put across our opinions That's all we can do. We cannot do anything, but we have to participate. If you don't participate, your competitor will go ahead of you. So one thing we have done is the IQAC has taken up the role of being the nodal office for all rankings and international and national rankings of our university. And I have taken this initiative. Personally, after doing a lot of study, we have decided that these are the rankings that we will participate in. We will participate in this international ranking, this national ranking. We have taken a policy decision. We will not participate in any of these magazine-based ranking systems. And many a time things have slipped. Some principal sitting in my may or may not this thing. So we have put a directive from the office of the registrar saying that university the individual campuses and schools will not participate in any ranking except the following. And the nodal office of your IQAC will serve as the same nodal office for the rankings. And in this process, the university IQAC chair will coordinate this process. And because of this, all the IQAC members are very much involved in the strategy, in the collation, the consolidation, the collection of data for the rankings, and there's a lot of synergy. So this nodal office, the IQAC, is also the nodal office for the rankings. This practice was started. Each of the IQAC coordinators for every school department, school means college, department and center are responsible for the collection of the data. And not only that the IQAC discuss various issues of interest with respect to the collection of writing, but also devises strategies for this thing. So I have given as an IQAC chair, I've given a very strong input. So I told you we have 15 colleges. One is a medical college, one is an Ayurveda college. Ayurveda college is sitting in Amrutapuri near Kollam. Medical college is sitting in Kochi. Arts college is sitting in Mysore. And each college has its own, strengths and strengths. We made a policy decision that, the university has a name. There is a huge fragmentation in terms of the perception of the university. So medical college will make its own newsletter. Engineering colleges will make its own newsletter. There's nothing wrong in it. But for the outside world, you make your newsletter, you internally show it to your parents and your students and your alumni. But at the corporate level, at the university level, at the ranking level, we only have a single newsletter, university newsletter. And it generally focuses mostly on research and research, ranking, research and collaboration. It doesn't focus on, a student got a Kannada Rajyotsava award and all those things and all. We don't put there. We only put that kind of content. That kind of content is there in a college newsletter. The college newsletter can have college magazine. You share it with all your students, your alumni and parents. Nothing wrong in it. We are not stopping. But at the university level, there is only a single newsletter. As a result, the perception was not fragmented. Even for employers, employer may be there for an arts college, for a MCA student, an MBA student, the same employer only. So we only send the university newsletter to these corporate contacts, to the perceptions and all. We have given other thing, expansion of student scholarships. It came from the IQAC. See, Amrita is a very vast university. There's so many activities happening, but there are certain things that the IQAC has pointed out to the management, and accordingly, the management has taken action. It may in some cases may not have happened immediately, but at least in the near future, these things have happened. Establishment in augmentation of initiatives of patent cells. There is a patenting policy that has come. A lot of measure has happened when we pointed out about the sorry state of patents, and then a patent office, a lot of initiatives, a lot of incentives have come. So IQAC has played a very proactive role in giving or flagging a lot of good points to the management. And so that way it has done a very proactive way. And now we are now seeing the results. The same IQAC coordinators are also coordinating international and national rankings. We are in almost most of the international rankings. Our university is the top private university in India. NIRF also, our ranking is growing. When I was overall coordination, it was 8th. This year I'm told we came to 4th. We have been working for that. And we are also evolving policies that are, devising the policies that kind of aligned to the ranking, though it is needed. Like I told you, we are in a very competitive world. We have to also devise policies and strategies so that we are able to come up in the rankings. Now, as I mentioned, I can write a 20-page essay on what is wrong, but that's not going to help me or anybody. Rather, I, pull up my socks and strategize, without compromising on any this thing. So that's the way. And this IQAC nodal office has been, rankings nodal office has been a very good initiative of the university IQAC, which has been, I was very happy because when I handed over, I stepped down as the university level. It was only good, very good name that, so a lot of good things have happened and then I'm happy to give it to somebody else who I hope will take it to the next level. A second activity that case study that I wanted to bring about is the idea of the publication coordinator. So we see in many of these national and international rankings, NIRF, NAC, except NBA doesn't look into that. Even NAC does not ask you for your publications. They directly take the publications from the indexes like Scopus and Web of Science. They directly take it from there. They don't ask you. And the citations, the quality of research, the number of papers, they have their own metrics. So just because you go on publishing papers, it's not going to help you. There is some factor for number, but ultimately your quality of research is measured not only based on the citations, but where the journals that you are publishing, or which percentile those journals are. Well, obviously, if you are publishing in high quality journals, those journals will be in higher percentiles. And, higher SJR or higher impact factor and so on and so forth. So, again, it's a very complicated process. So we are not giving anybody, we are only publishing, and they are directly pulling it from these sources. And we found out that there was a lot of problems because of the affiliation. Many people were not properly mentioning. So the let me just read this one. The bibliometrics for ascertaining the quality and quantity of research publications are taken directly from indexing and abstracting agencies such as Scopus, Web of Science, and PubMed. PubMed is for medical and health sciences. So it is important that the publications have proper affiliation and are free of plagiarism. Otherwise, you get caught. And if there is something you're caught for plagiarism, the college will also be, in many cases, many agencies even blacklist the college. So it's a very major disservice that you are doing if you engage in these practices. So we suggested the IQAC brought out the idea of the publication coordinator in each department, because research is a very important activity. A publication coordinator as a nodal officer for all research in the college level, the department level, the university level, and the job of the publication coordinator is a very vast thing. I have actually spoken to all the principals also, individual principals, that these publication coordinators who are working for you, these IQAC coordinators who are working for you, please ensure that they get appropriate marks in their appraisal. And when you are giving incentives and promotions, please factor these things also. That I have done at my level, talking to all the principals and asking them to do that. So the publication coordinator here keeps all track of all the journals that are there in the area, the conferences. It tracks the papers, tracks the conferences, the journals. It also alerts that don't publish in this journal because it has come out of Scopus or Web of Science. And also the indexing status, alerting the faculty. The publication coordinator in every department is given a license or a username of the plagiarism software, and that plagiarism software is checked. Not only that, every paper that goes out, there is a process to check the affiliation, whether the affiliation is given properly. Because if you don't give the affiliation properly, you have lost the paper. I'll just give you an example. Our university name is Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham Coimbatore. If somebody publishes as AVVP Coimbatore, it is as good as we've lost the publication. AVVP is not a short form, but some people, you never know. People sitting somewhere may make such mistakes. So we ensure that the affiliations are maintained, and as a result now we are seeing that the number of publications is going up, and we all these rankings we are doing very well on the metrics of publication. Because at one point of time, I remember maybe not 6 years back, maybe 5 years back, NIRF called 5 years or 4 years back. They called me and asked me, "You have so many affiliations. Is this part of your university? How so? Give me this thing." So I understood the problem. So I was able to bring this out, flag this out, and as a result, we were able to make policies and strategies whereby affiliation is now very carefully done, and that has really helped us. I showed you these rankings, whether it is NIRF or NBA or NAC. All these have this publication coordinator is something that has really helped us in improving the quality of research, improving the quality of publication, and thereby this has helped us a lot in the ranking as well as accreditation. I think that's all from my side. I'll stop the sharing. I'll be happy to answer questions. And yeah, that's all.
Sir, there are questions in the chat box.
Yeah, you can read them to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let Sir, any difference between college IQC and department IQAC?
Yeah, I had already mentioned the college IQAC is a high level body which should be made as per the guidelines of NAC. Ideally, the college IQAC should be headed or chaired by the principal. If it's a university, it should be the vice chancellor. It should have preferably all the HODs and members from every department, as also members from the administrative offices like library, placement cell, sports, and so on. And you should have some external members from ideally from alumni, from student community, from your own students, from the alumni, from the local community, industry, and some experts from other colleges. This is the constitution of the uh, college level IQAC. Now, in the college level IQAC, there are departmental representatives. These departmental representatives will have in the department. There will be a department IQAC, which is basically a subset of the department. If you have a department of 20 people, maybe 7 or 8 of them will form a department IQAC, and they will take care of the activities in the department, so that the departmental activities are collected, collated, consolidated, and they are given to the college level IQAC. So that is a difference. Department IQAC, normally you only have some faculty in your own department. You don't have people from outside, or other stakeholders are not there.
Another question, could you please talk about feedback mechanism on IQAC functioning? Any template attributes you suggest? As such, you discussed this so highly.
See, as far as an IQAC is concerned, the IQAC is the body that is responsible for evolving feedback mechanisms. IQAC has to be giving some sort of feedback mechanism. So I'm not talking of teacher audit by students. That I'm not talking of that. IQAC can build feedback mechanisms. See, for example, I mentioned you hostel. How improve the hostel? Improve the maybe once in a semester or a trimester or once in a year you can have a feedback. The IQAC can take responsibility of having a feedback mechanism of student life in the campus. So, which can include the hostel, the mess, the canteen, the sports facility, the food, all that can be done in a feedback. So, accordingly, the IQAC can evolve these kind of feedback mechanisms that give the institution some good inputs. But as far as the path for the IQAC, it's all volunteering, and you see our path. Our path is see, I'll be very honest with you. See, our university is number one private university in India, very much focused on research and societal, because our chancellor is many of you have heard of Amma. Amma is a world renowned humanitarian leader. So the focus of the university is are mainly if you see the vision or the DNA of the university is on how you can have research and activities to help the society, or the lowest rung of the lowest level in the pyramid, bottom of the pyramid, and that is the focus of the university. IQAC is not the focus of this university. Let me be very clear with you. So every institution has its own strengths and vision. So our vision is, how to leverage research for society. And in that process, IQAC is not the highest priority at all. Yes, there is a person appointed to take care, and there is a person to focus. So there are limitations with respect to the IQAC functioning in every institution. I was told in one of the top, I don't know how true it is, pardon me if I am wrong. I was told, not now, 5 years back, Anna University is the top technical university in India with so many affiliated colleges. They do a fabulous job in terms of managing 500 plus colleges in Tamil Nadu across the board, conducting exams for 500 colleges. Conducting arrear exams itself is a nightmare, you can imagine. It does a wonderful job. But Anna University is fully focused on these 500 colleges. They have to take care of the lakhs of students. I was told that 5 years back, once they got NAC, for 3 or 4 years, they didn't get time to focus on IQAC. It was not a priority, because the priority is conducting exams for 500 colleges. Now I'm told that things have changed. Now there is a very proper Pakka IQAC in place. But what I'm saying is, are you bothered about, are you focusing on conducting exams for 500 colleges, or are you focusing on IQAC? It's very easy. The answer is there in the institution itself. Same way, there are challenges. In our case, this is not a high priority, but at the same time, somebody has to do the job. So at least I got very good support. I got it from, I report to the registrar. I had a huge support that whenever I called up the registrar, he will pick up the phone first ring. Whenever I don't sit in the registrar office, but now I have got a cabin in the registrar office, so that evenings afternoons I sit in the registrar office. I meet him every day, and I am up to speed. And the support he has given me is tremendous. Tremendous support he has given me. The registrar of Amrita is actually formerly, he was in TKM college. Dr. Shankaran, he was a chemical engineering professor in TKM college. Then subsequently he became the principal of our Amritapuri campus for around 12 years, and he moved in as the registrar here 5 years back. So I get tremendous support from the registrar, and I have no problem. He is able to alert, or whenever I have an issue, he puts my issue on the top of the hierarchy. So I never had a problem. So the IQAC has to navigate its path. That's all I can say. It all depends upon your institution.
Please give an overview about ranking, NIRF, QS.
Yeah, NIRF is Government of India's ranking system. NIRF stands for National Institutional Ranking Framework. It started in 2000. It started in 2017. It started in 16, but the first ranking came out in 2017. So the idea is to have a system to rank all types of institutions in India. So initially they started with one size fits all. One size fits all. Everybody is ranked. Now they have separate. They have, even though there is a one size fits all in terms of a overall ranking and a university ranking, you can participate in your discipline. There is an engineering and management discipline, pharmacy discipline, medical discipline, dental discipline. So now this ranking has evolved over time. In the last 4 years, every year they are improving. I can be very honest with you. Initially, we also had a lot of problems with the metrics, but now every year the rankings are becoming better and better. It's not completely perfect, but then it is on the step towards perfection. And now what has happened is many of these magazines have run out of business. They were running all these rankings. Now nobody is bothered. Everybody is focusing on NIRF because it's an authentic government. It is done by the Ministry of Education. So there is no problem with regard to the authenticity and validation. Agreed, there are some metrics that you may think, it's like match fixing, perhaps I complain that, this ranking is very much focused on the IIT. I cannot, those things may or may not be there, but they are improving. THE and QS stands for Times Higher Education, and QS is Cockerally Simons. Both are international ranking agencies based in London that rank universities across the world in international rankings. So this is also university or institution. This is having a totally different set of parameters. Their Times Higher Education and Quality of Cockerally Simons focus primarily on research output, citations, international students, faculty, perception, and your perception in the industry and all. It's a little different ball game. But government of India looks at these international rankings, especially when they are awarding institution of eminence, IOE and all. They look at these rankings. So we have to work on these rankings as well.
For publication, how to identify the listed journals? Some of the journals listed are also fake link. How to overcome this?
See, well, it's a very difficult thing to find out. If you ask me, the only way is using your common sense and diligence, because unfortunately, see, India is the biggest source of predatory and paid journals. Now, I don't want to, I don't want to, maybe I may say as a good researcher, or as a good as a known person in the field, I can say that, oh, I am not going to publish in any of these predatory journals and so on. But I want to personally tell you my experience. This is not in my official capacity. It is my own personal opinion. In our university, we have a rule that a master's student needs to publish in a Scopus listed conference or journal. They need not publish, they only need to communicate, I think, or publish, whatever. Now, I had an MTech student 3 or 4 years back. She told me, sir, I'm getting married next month. I'm going to Dubai. What do I do? Now, I can see, I have to be very compassionate to the fact that that girl is getting married and she's moving to Dubai. Now, I can't tell her, you go into this journal that will take 6 months or 8 months. My immediate requirement was ensuring that she gets a degree and graduate. So in such cases, maybe these predatory journals have helped, but in the long run, they will not help. The only way is using your diligence, because you never know how they con you. It's a racket. It's a total racket. There are ways they con you. They will claim on their website, Scopus indexed. They will claim on their website, impact factor 8.2. All this is bullshit. All this is humbug. They are all claiming. Even when you write, I'll tell you my own experience. When I am writing to Scopus, I'm asking a question. Is this journal Scopus indexed or not? The Scopus chat will send you an email in a day. At present, it is indexed. What does it mean? Scopus does not tell you whether it will be, today it is indexed, but Scopus does not divulge whether that journal is under investigation or not. We don't know. They will not tell us, the journal will not tell us. What do you do? Sometimes there is a miss. There have been some misses. Some student, some BTech student was very, what should I say, enthusiastic that I want to go to US next year. I want to have 2 or 3 journals. I told him, see, you want to publish in a good journal, it will take 1 year. You can't expect this thing. No, sir, I have to have 2 or 3 papers before that. Then I said, you have to go for some paid journal. Don't put my name. I told him also that. Don't put my name in that journal. He tried it. It didn't work out. So the journal website even today says it is Scopus indexed. Scopus, when you wrote to them, they send a mail back. At present, it is indexed. But they never told that it is being investigated. So you have to only use your diligence. You have to only use your common sense. Having said that, if somebody is claiming an impact factor is only given by Thomson's Reuters or Clarivate Analytics. Only they are the agencies that give impact factor. Unless you are SCI, Science Citation in the SCI or Emerging Science Citation, only they give a valid impact factor. If anybody else is claiming an impact factor, it is a fraud. The only agency that gives impact factor is Web of Science. Web of Science is the index. It is owned by Clarivate Analytics. It used to be called Thomson's Reuters, and the index that is given is SCI impact factor or ESCI impact factor. Only that is valid. Anybody else claiming their impact factor, it is a fraud. And impact factors don't jump up like anything. You know, in engineering and all, having an impact factor of 1 or 2 is a great thing. Maybe in some disciplines like chemistry, physics and all, impact factors go up a little higher and so on. But otherwise, you know, impact factor, first of all, 10% of journals only get impact factor, maybe 5 to 10%. So it's very difficult. That is one thing. Now, here again, UGC has brought a list called UGC Care List, but they are trying their level best to ensure that paid journals are being weeded out. But still, some paid journals get in somehow. Somehow or the other, some paid journals get in, because at the end of the day, they will give you a list. They'll say, I have all these international editorial board members. I have this many papers from abroad and all. There are ways to, con. But now even UGC Care is slowly but surely cleaning up the list. Scopus is also cleaning up the list. Web of Science has already more or less cleaned up the list. So over a period of time, journals coming in these indexes like Scopus, Web of Science, UGC Care List. Then for management, there is some FT20, Financial Times, some ADBC. Management journals don't go with Scopus. Many of them go with this ADBC list. ADBC is Australian Dean's Business Council or something. And whenever you are going for AASCB accreditation, they don't look at Scopus, they look at the ADBC list of journals. So over a period of time, look for journals that are in these indexes, either Scopus or Web of Science or UGC Care or ADBC. Look for that. But again, it's not entirely perfect. There are even now a few predatory and paid journals in these lists. But over a period of time, these all will be weeded out. But it will take time.
Is there a yearly budget for IQAC activities? How well is the IQAC funded?
In our case, there is no budget as such. There are some administrative. I know there are some administrative staff who do secretarial and data entry work who report to me completely. As far as I am concerned, my workload as an IQAC chair or a vice chair, some workload reduction is there. That's all, and some some perks and privileges are there. I don't have to go to lab classes. I don't have to guide students, but I do guide students. So in our case, we don't have any yearly budget for IQAC activities, but every college, there is no fixed budget. You know, every college wants to promote. So there is no specific budget as such. We do all these activities. Suppose I want to conduct a conference and I approach my management, they'll say yes. So there is no fixed budget, but there is full promotion for these activities.
So there are no more questions in the chat box. The participants.
So if anybody wants to ask questions, they are free to ask. You can come online and ask, no problem.
Any more questions from the participant side? Any queries?
So one last question.
Yeah.
So when an institution is going for an accreditation for the first time,
yeah.
So is it important that they consult outside consultancies for help to get things in order? How can they do it right?
See, on paper, you are not, whether it is NAC or NBA, you are not permitted to act officially. You are not permitted to go for any consultancy. You have to figure it out on your own, number one. So, the official policy is you are not supposed to employ any outside consultants. That is wrong, actually. It is not as per the law, because these outside consultants, what they will do, they will take some self-study report or SSR or SAR, self-assessment report or self-study report or some other college. They may copy some cut paste. It will result in plagiarism and so on and so forth. You are not supposed to do that, number one. But then what you could do is, when you are setting up a IQAC, means when you start with the NAC steering committee, and the NAC steering committee becomes an IQAC. You have the permission, NAC and NBA allows you to have an external expert. So the external expert can give you some guidance and all, and so on. So you can, that is officially you are allowed to have an external expert, and that external expert can help you in the sense that you have to only write your SSR. You cannot copy somebody's SSR. You have to write your self-assessment report. You cannot copy that. You write something, you can always call somebody to do an audit. That there is nothing wrong in calling a person to do an audit. Putting a person in as an external member in your IQAC who can give you some good practices, there is nothing wrong. In fact, government now, there is a, what is that, a Margadarshak, some scheme is there. They are officially appointing people to help, but there is no financial gain. It's only some people who are willing to help. Maybe they may be, see, when you call somebody for an external member for an IQAC, maybe you have to give some remuneration per day or something, but it's not a, what should I say? It's not a major this thing. Maybe if somebody is coming as a meeting, you give 1 day. It's like calling a person for a board of studies meeting. You give a small remuneration and you give a TAD. Same way, an external expert can come and give you something. There is nothing wrong in that. That is perfectly accepted by NAC and NBA. Same way, before you are going for NAC or NBA, you can officially conduct a mock audit. Because NAC is coming for audit, you can do, and officially you can conduct a mock audit. You can show that also to NAC that I brought these experts. And again, you bring an expert, you are paying some daily remuneration or honorarium and something like that. There is nothing wrong in that. But you are not supposed to employ any external agency. That is wrong. If they find out, they will blacklist you. I hope I have answered your question. Dr. Sham, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Sir, there is one more query in the chat box. Some of the topmost management institute publish journals, but it is not listed. Why?
See, you have to, I'm again coming to the this thing, you may like it, you may hate it, but you cannot ignore it. Now, I personally, I'm now, I have been in national positions in Computer Society of India. I used to be the national student coordinator. 700 colleges in India have got CSI student branches. What is that? 700 colleges have got student branches. I used to coordinate the activities for all 700 colleges for 2 years, 17 and 18. Subsequently, I became the CSI editor, national editor. Now I am currently the editor for the CSI. I used to be running the CSI magazine for 2 years. Communications for 2000 up to 17 and 18 and 19, I was the editor. Now I am looking after the journal. We are now running behind UGC to get it approved in the UGC care list. We are now also talking to Scopus through Springer to get the CSI Journal of Computing also listed. I am also involved in the Coimbatore Management Association. I am likely to take over as the joint secretary next year. These things we are looking at journals and all. We have to, if you have a journal, it is in your interest that you have to get it. You have to get it listed and indexed. Otherwise, nobody will publish. It's very, very easy. It's a customer Who are your customers? Your customers are students and faculty and researchers. If these students, researchers, and faculty have to get some credit, you have to get it. You have to get it indexed. So it is in your interest that you have to get it indexed in this thing. Why I am saying is Springer. You know, we were involved in this. We are talking to Springer. Springer off the record tells me this Elsevier is the body that is running Scopus. I don't know what they do, but we are a better agency, but we are forced to go to Scopus. It's the market dynamics, the market forces are like that. So you just publish a management journal. You see, it is as good as your college magazine. It will be read by your students and your faculty. Maybe you can put it in your library. Maybe you can send 100 copies to all the colleges. It doesn't help you in any way. You have to get it indexed. Only then the clientele, that is the students and researchers, will start using your journal.
One more query has come up, sir. How to make the visit of NBA successful at the institute? The visit days.
See, there is no hard and fast rule to, there is no strategy per se to get it done. See, you are honest. You do things with conviction. You are honest. You clearly say what you have. What you don't have, don't hide anything. There are some lacunae that you have. Be honest about it. Be honest about it. And I don't think if the see, this all depends upon the people who are coming. I am told in the past that there have been some cases of corruption and all that I don't know. Nor can I comment on those things. But you are honest. You do what you have to peak. What I'm saying is, on the day of the visit, you have to peak. You cannot be exhausted on that day of visit. I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell you. On the day of the visit, you have to peak. Your performance should be at the highest possible thing. You have to be honest. You have to explain what you have done in a very strong and proactive manner. You have to peak your performance in the sense that whatever they ask, proactively be honest about it. Give the document. Keep all the documents ready. Keep it in a place where everybody can see, so that they don't have to run around. They may ask you all the questions. Take notes of all the questions. Address those questions. You may not be able to immediately address those questions, but by the end of the day, if you are able to address these questions, they are satisfied. Ultimately, there is definitely a lot of perception. See, obviously it is objective in the sense that they look for the data, they look for the evidence, and so on. But there is also a perception of honesty. There is a perception of integrity. If they are convinced that you are very honest and you are having integrity and you are not hiding things, I don't think it's a problem. But my personal experience is that 5 years back we were drained. On that day our performance doesn't peak because we are drained by working the night before, and all that we have stopped. So on that day we are fresh to face. In fact, the day before we don't do anything. We just try to do some firefighting and last minute, sleep well, go for a movie, don't take the tension off. And when they come, just face it very honestly. I think that's the best strategy for NBA. Because they are very trained people, very nice and trained people, and they don't, you can't hide things and all. They are very smart. They'll find out. Be honest about it. That's all I will say.
Any more questions from the participants?
Sir, can I ask a question, please?
Absolutely, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, my name is Anil Raj. I'm from Kerala. In fact, I'm a research scholar at RIT Kottayam.
Okay.
So the question which is concerning me for quite some time is, as you know, that currently retired professors are not allowed to guide research scholars, and they say it is to ensure quality. Yeah. But my concern is, it is seen that the chairman of the doctoral committee is often a retired professor.
Yeah.
So what I want your advice, or what I would like to hear from you is, so what would be your stand on this double stand, if I don't put it wrongly?
No, I think, see, I don't think there is such a rule. It all varies from university to university. As I understand, in our this thing, retired professors serve as adjunct professors and also co-guides. I think it all depends upon the university and the institution. But there is definitely a problem when somebody is inside and somebody is outside guiding. There is definitely a problem. Agreed, you want to get some inputs from that person. So probably there will be some method by which you can assign a co-guide from outside, or you can put that person as a member of the doctoral committee even though he's a retired person. I don't think there is any problem that way, but it all depends upon individual university rules. There have been cases in some universities where the guide is outside, the student is outside, the doctoral committee members are also outside, and there is a accountability issues are there. I mean, at the end of the day, the guide says, give him a thesis, give him a PhD, it's giving him a PhD. So such cases have been there that have resulted in UGC tightening up the things. But I don't see any problem where you are can't have a person as an adjunct faculty and a co-guide, or as a addition as a doctoral committee member. I don't know, but it varies from university to university.
So if you don't mind, can I
Please
put a
do,
small
please do.
add-on?
Yes.
So, but don't you feel that the quality, if they have done this to ensure quality, don't you feel that if somebody from the if somebody who is the chairman of a doctoral committee is a retired person and all others are non-retired people, does that not create double standards?
No, there is no, it is not a question of double standard. It is a question of compliances. See, somebody sitting outside, I will tell you, there are milestones. Now, I am taking our own university's PhD rules. Now, some wisdom has got into these UGC, whatever, the regulations of a university require a series of compliances. If you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Even when somebody completes a PhD, there are some compliances that a university has to do. Not only there is a register of graduates, there is a reporting to some the InflipNet UGC center, there is a reporting to UGC. So there are a series of compliances that a university has to do while giving a person a PhD. Number one. Number two, for these compliances, what I'm trying to say is that for getting these compliances done, it may be necessary that the faculty has to be an internal faculty. Otherwise, it is difficult. If there is a retired person somewhere sitting somewhere, you have a doctoral committee meeting, your department, it works that way also. There will be a time where you have to conduct a doctoral committee meeting, right? If a person is inside, the doctoral committee meeting can be conducted leisurely. If you are looking at an outside person, that outside person has to travel from somewhere. He has to come to your place to conduct the doctoral committee. He or she may not be free when you are free. Who will pay for that person's transportation? So all these issues are there. Probably that is why they are not encouraging. But my opinion is, these retired people can be definitely added as adjunct faculty. We are also already having that some of adjunct faculty, and some of them I believe from outside are functioning as co-guides also, but they are not the main guide, because that co-guide will not be able to, somebody sitting in Google in Hyderabad is a co-guide. Now I call him, there is a doctoral committee meeting. He'll say, I'm in a client call with my customer in the US. I'm very busy. I don't have time. So who is the sufferer? The student is the suffering. So that is why there is a provision to have these adjunct professors as co-guides, who may be retired people or who may be listening. But ultimately, that is a decision every university has to take. There cannot be an overall, what should I say? I cannot comment on another university regulations. This is the possible way of involving such people, is by assigning them as adjunct faculty or as co-guides.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the insight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think there are no more questions. Shall we close the session?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much to all the participants. I've given you my email ID that I have shared it, and the slides will be shared very soon by the organizers. Thank you very
sure.
much. All the best for your journey in towards excellence. Thank you, madam. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
St. Kitts. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, sir. Sir,
Thank you very much.
before we close, I must mention my deep sense of appreciation for Dr. Prashant Darna for being with us for 3 days in a row. All these days, you have enlightened us with your thoughts on outcome-based education, curriculum mapping, IQAC. The coverage was vast and excellent, sir. It was a very good learning experience. On behalf of St. Kitts College of Engineering, I wholeheartedly thank you, sir, for the sincere efforts that you have taken. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So anybody can connect me on my email ID. You can also find me on Facebook, or you can, my website is also there in the Amrita website. Just Google, you will find out. Prashant Nair, Google Amrita, you will find out. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. With this, we close the afternoon session for the day. The next session is scheduled at 2:15 p.m. I request all the participants to join in time. The next session is on Moodle, My Classroom, Challenges and Implementation Strategies. Thank you so much. Thank you.